You're literally twisting my words.
You're twisting my words. Let's watch the clip from the beginning.
Who has easier lives, men or women?
Men.
Why do you say men?
Women have it way worse.
Well, why?
Sexual assault, being raped. Like, men just think that women are just fucking pieces of meat. Women have to go through cramps, periods. Men have to go through not that much shit.
So, okay, so you just listed some problems that women have. Don't men have problems as well?
Yeah. Fucking random boners.
That's the only problems that we have.
What are some other problems that men have?
I mean, most suicide victims are men. Isn't that a problem that we have?
So do women.
No, but it's majority men.
Because this generation and men are complete shit. Men commit suicide more because they do not open up about their feelings.
Men commit suicide more because they're complete shit. You just said this generation of men are all pieces of shit and that they commit suicide because they don't open up about their emotions.
You're literally twisting my words.
No, that's what you said.
This generation of men, yes, there are many assholes, and if you find a good one, then that is very rare. It is their fault. They are the one making that action.
Okay, but isn't that a problem that we have?
And so do women. Women have the same shit.
No, but it's more prevalent for, like, you literally just said that rape and sexual assault is more prevalent for women. And committing suicide and being victims of violent crime are more prevalent for men. So, don't we both have problems?
Men are assholes. They think they can just take what they want.
Isn't that kind of sexist?
If you think of it like that, yes. Because I hate men.
So that would make you sexist.
I mean, I personally don't think I'm sexist.
But you just said you hate men and that most men are assholes.
Yeah, because most men are assholes. Tell me I'm wrong.
You can't prove that, and that's sexist
Oh,
to
but
say
I
that.
can.
You've got to give, like, statistical, like, proof that most men are assholes and terrible people.
All of the girls, all of the women who have been fucking raped and sexually assaulted and all that shit, what about those guys who have gotten away with it?
Do you think that's most men? Do you think most men rape and sexually assault women?
Probably.
Let's stop there. I want to ask you, have you ever had an argument with a woman like this when you're like trying to stick to a narrow path, you're using facts and logic, but every time you feel like you've actually connected, you've made your point, it just seems to glance off to the side, like it's just been deflected. That clip was hard to watch. He makes a point and she brings up something else, or she gets emotional, or she starts insulting men, or she accuses him of twisting her words, even though he quoted her directly. What you just watched was complete oil and water. They never mixed because the man was using logic, but the woman was feeling emotional. And logic has no impact on emotions. And when a woman is emotional, she's never going to concede anything. It actually didn't matter what he said because that woman emotionally feels like she's right. I mean, how could she not be? She's a woman. She just feels right, and those feelings are important. So what happens in the psyche of a woman when that feeling of being right clashes with some kind of fact that demonstrates that she is in fact mistaken or wrong? A high quality woman who actually has sufficient self-esteem to express some humility will drop the feeling of being right in accordance with the logic and facts. But a low quality woman is going to choose the emotion. She's going to choose to hang on to that feeling that she's right, and it doesn't matter what's being said. And whenever she has to encounter an argument coming at her, she's just going to deflect it. And that's what this video is about. It's going to teach you how to handle women's deflection tactics in an argument. Now, there are 3 distinct ways that women will deflect during an argument. And I want you to pay attention to these because you need to be able to spot them and you need to know what to do during a discussion if a woman tries any of these deflection tactics. The first way is that a woman will listen to what you've said, but instead of responding to the point that you've just made, she'll just bring up an entirely different issue. Like in the clip that we just watched, she says that men don't have problems, or she says that men have to deal with random boners, and then the man brings up male suicide rates. Does she respond to that? Say, yes, that is a problem? No, she's like, but what about women? Women also commit suicide. It's a deflection. She didn't respond to what he said. She just brought up a different issue. I mean, it's obvious why she didn't answer, because if she had to engage directly with what he's saying, then she'd need to concede that he does have a point, that men do have their own problems. Why that's so difficult for her to admit is anyone's guess. I'm still continuously terrified by how little empathy women show for men and men's struggles. And so she deflects. Instead of answering within the paradigm that she knows she's going to lose in, she tries to shift the discussion to a new paradigm where she feels superior. Let's talk about women and their struggles. This is so common. I learned this the hard way when I was at the beginning of this YouTube channel, and I used to go out onto the streets and interview women because I often wanted to have topics like of discussion where I'm talking about men and men's struggles, and women found it so difficult to actually keep to the discussion that we're meant to be having, to actually talk about men and their issues. So often they would make the conversation about them, make the conversation about women. It's like their default programming pushed them into talking about women and their struggles. Like we couldn't have one conversation that was about men and their issues. It's like it didn't compute. Like, no, men don't count. Why would we talk about them? We need to talk about me and the things I've been through. Constant deflection. And honestly, I think they were just responding out of the cultural propaganda of the day and age that we live in. I'm not sure that they were even aware that they're doing it. But regardless, whether it's consciously intended or not, the question arises, how are you meant to handle it when a woman deflects in this way? The answer is actually pretty simple, which is don't bite. Don't allow yourself to be deflected. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep talking about what you want to talk about. Now, you can't just ignore the point that she's just made, even though it was a deflection, because then she's going to be like, oh, well, you're not listening to me and I'm the victim in this discussion, blah, blah, blah. So here's what you do. It's actually quite diplomatic. You handle it by validating the importance of the point that she's just made, and you promise that you're going to return to that so you can discuss that next. But you say, we're in the middle of a discussion about this point right now. We've got to resolve this first before we move on to something different. So when that woman said, yeah, but women commit suicide too, the way to handle that is, yes, of course they do. And that's a really serious issue. And I'd like to discuss that with you next. But before we shift topics to begin talking about women's suicide rates, let's first finish this discussion that we're already having. You know, can we acknowledge that men committing suicide is a problem that men have? The reason that this works is because you're not arguing against her point. You're actually validating that it's important and promising to discuss that soon. You're just saying, well, this is not the right time for that discussion. You almost bring her into the team and say, well, let's not allow ourselves to be deflected. Let's finish this topic that we're talking about, and then we'll move on to those other important topics. That way you're able to stay the course. That's how you handle it. Okay, the second way that women deflect during a discussion like this is insults. Men are arseholes, all men are shit. You're twisting my words. When a woman is frightened by your logic because she is emotional, that's the vibration that she's currently in, she's going to try and bring you down to her level by making you emotional too. And the way she does that is insulting you, trying to get a rise out of you. That's how this deflection works. The insult is the deflection. She's feeling uneasy. She's feeling chaotic, very emotional, very irrational, and your calm demeanor, your presentation of facts and logic, that's terrifying to her, and so she wants to rattle you. So she levels insults and criticisms at you, trying to knock you off the course that you're on, like the woman from that clip saying, all men are arseholes and I hate men. The way to handle this one is to be aware of what she's doing. She's trying to trigger me. She's trying to make me be as emotional as she is. So don't get angry. Don't get upset. Don't get all morally offended and say, how dare you say things like that, because then she's won. She has successfully deflected you from the discussion at hand. You've been knocked off course. Victory for you is when you keep on the path. You don't pay attention to all the useless noise that she's throwing out. You know what you want to discuss and you stick to that. Don't react to the insults. Just keep asking the question that she's so desperately trying to avoid. And this actually leads into the third way that women deflect in an argument, which is by becoming outwardly emotional. This is different from the deflection tactic of insulting you or criticizing you, because in that, she's trying to make you emotional. That's how she's trying to deflect the conversation. But in this one, she's just showing you her emotions. That's the new deflection. You think that you're having a nice, normal, calm discussion where you're exploring new ideas, listening to each other's viewpoints, but then suddenly she's like screaming with anger or she's broken down in tears. That's a pretty effective way to deflect an argument. Now, I'm going to tell you how to deal with this one, but I first need to provide a disclaimer that you have to be really, really careful, because women can genuinely get upset in a discussion. Just because the woman in front of you has broken down in tears and you're not able to continue the discussion, that doesn't necessarily mean that that was her intention or that she's showing you these emotions because she's trying to manipulate you. It is a trademark of abusive men that they always accuse women of using their emotions to manipulate them. The idea that the woman could just genuinely be emotional about stuff and it's about her doesn't even enter the minds of abusive men. They always make it about themselves and then get angry at her. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. However, sometimes women do use their emotions manipulatively. And so this is a very difficult space to navigate. So how are you meant to tell? How can you differentiate between a woman who is sincerely and authentically emotional and a woman who is trying to manipulate you? Here's the most important telltale sign. When a woman is using her emotions as a manipulative deflection tactic, she will jackknife between various emotions very, very quickly. Like it might go like this. You make a point during the argument, during the discussion, and she becomes really, really sad. She's just broken down in tears. But if that doesn't work, if that doesn't succeed in deflecting the argument, then suddenly you'll see that sadness quickly turn to anger and she can become furious and vicious and start yelling at you. But if that doesn't work, if you stay calm, then suddenly she gets panicked, like she's having a panic attack. She's really, really frightened. And then it moves back to sadness and she keeps cycling through emotions really, really quickly. Usually, not always, but usually that's a good indicator that the emotions aren't real. She's not authentically expressing how she's feeling. She's just showing you various emotions to try and see, well, which one is going to work? Which one will he respond to? You know, which one is going to get me out of this? But regardless if the emotions are sincere or manipulative, if the tears are real or not, you got to stop. You can't keep the discussion going. You can't just keep plowing on. Emotions have to come first. If you haven't seen it, you've got to check out this video on the importance of exploring and validating a woman's emotions. It's absolutely essential for any man who wants to have a successful relationship with a woman. It's completely pointless anyway. If the woman has become incredibly emotional, then you're not going to make any progress in a logical discussion. So you might as well stop. It doesn't mean that you're ending the discussion permanently. It's more of a strategic withdrawal. So if she gets really upset, really worked up, then just say, hey, I can see that you're feeling a lot of emotions right now. This discussion can wait. Let's just take a break. Tell me, how are you feeling? If this is your girlfriend, like it's a woman that you care about, then be there for her, comfort her, help her explore those emotions. But this is a really important part, is that while that's going on, while she's exploring her emotions, do not allow her to start the discussion again. You know, if she's like, I just meant it like this, and she's really emotional while she's trying to make new points, just politely shut her down. Like, no, that can wait. We're not going to discuss that right now. I just want to be here for you. When she's emotional, it's not the right time to be having that discussion. That can wait. So just let the emotions come up. Emotions are like waves, you know? If they encounter no resistance, then they often just sort of roll through and can actually be quite cleansing. The person feels better and more calm and level-headed afterwards. So you never know. This could actually be a good thing. But what's important to know is that after she has finished, you know, exploring those emotions and you've comforted her and validated her and all of that stuff, you can then resume the discussion at the same point. I mean, you don't have to do that. You don't have to even have these discussions, you know, with women. I would only really recommend this if this is a woman you really care about, like a member of your family or your girlfriend. If it's just some random woman you've got in an argument with, I'd just walk away. Arguing with women is largely pointless. I explained that in this video. But if the discussion is important to you, then you should revisit it. And I would especially encourage you to do that if you suspect that her emotions might have not been real, if they might have been a little bit manipulative and she was just trying to get out of something. Men don't have this same experience, and so it can be a little bit difficult for them to understand, but women learn from a very young age that their emotions can be used to get them out of things. Like if they're in trouble or they're being asked to be accountable for something they don't want to be. As a young girl, she can just break down in tears and then people will feel sorry for her. Maybe her father feels uncomfortable and so he just soothes her and forgets all about it. And that gets locked in her brain. Wow, that really worked. That was useful. Must remember that my emotions can be used this way. I'm not shaming women about that. I guarantee all you men listening, if you're judging women, if you were born into the body of a woman and with a woman's brain, you'd be doing exactly the same thing. But if you don't think that women understand the power of their tears to be able to avoid responsibility and get out of stuff, you're kidding yourself. Now, if her emotions were sincere, she's a high quality woman and she genuinely cares about you, she'll be happy to resume the discussion. She'll be like, yes, this is important. It's important to you. I'm feeling better. I'd like to go into this. Let's keep exploring this topic. That's good. That's a good sign. That's a really good indicator that her emotions were authentic. Where it gets very problematic is if you took the time to stop and comfort her emotions and she's feeling better, but then you want to start that discussion again, and then suddenly a whole new bunch of emotions flare up and she gets really angry. Why are you bringing that up again? Do you want to keep making me upset? It's a really good indicator that the emotions were used to manipulate you. She just doesn't want to be accountable, and she thought that, you know, showing her emotions meant that it was over, that the whole thing was resolved, and now you're bringing it up again? You're so insensitive. You're being mean. No, you're not. You stopped the discussion. You respected her emotional process. You were there for her. You comforted her. But this is also important to you. And now that that has passed, it seems perfectly rational and logical that you'd continue the discussion. A high quality woman understands that, whereas a low quality woman is just going to give you more and more deflections. Now, all of this might sound a little bit strange to you. Like, why is it so important to just stay on one path? You know, aren't conversations a bit fluid? Can't they go in any number of directions? You know, if the conversation is flowing this way, or if she wants to talk about that, why wouldn't I just go with that? You know, Alex, you're being so cynical calling all of this a deflection. If you think that, I'm envious of you, of how positive your interactions with women have been, that you could still hold on to that kind of naivety. But regardless, let me absolutely promise you that allowing yourself to be deflected by a woman in a discussion like this is a surefire recipe to guarantee that she loses respect and attraction for you. Women do not want a man who can be easily knocked off course. How are they meant to trust a man like that? How are they meant to feel safe with a man like that? How are they meant to surrender into a man whose masculinity is so fragile that she can just easily deflect it off in ridiculous little ways? When you stay structured in a discussion, you're aware of what's being talked about, what needs to be resolved, what the next point to be discussed is. Women will feel that masculine strength and they'll feel reassured by that. Here's a man who knows where he's going. Here's a man I can trust. Sometimes all of these deflections are really just a type of test that a woman is giving you. Like, she's throwing all of her feminine chaos at you. Like, here's my emotions. Here's some criticisms. Here's an unrelated point, just to see if she can knock you off course. I promise you, in the long term, even if she kicks and screams a little bit in the immediate discussion, in the long term, she's going to feel so much more secure around you if she sees that her feminine chaos does not touch you. You're unreachable, emotionally available, but logically unimpeachable. Sticking with the theme of, you know, the darker aspects of female psychology, my latest Patreon video is about why it's really not a good idea to listen to women's advice. In this, I go into the various motivations that women have for giving advice and what their agenda is, and the correct way to separate yourself from all of that noise and who you should actually listen to. It's a very in-depth video. I really like this one. I think you'll like it too. So if you want to see that video, then please go and sign up on my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription. You get instant access to that video plus a whole bunch of other videos. I must have at least 200 in my back catalog at this point. It's a great way of supporting the creator. We have a great community over there, great discussions. I'd love to see you over there so that you can be a part of it.